you want to talk about before we get going? Because I know Elder Miguel has been bringing Buddhist concepts into the churches before we even had the church. It's always been something that's helped me years ago. I want to thank you for that. I did a testimony in one of our prayer things a few weeks ago and told people that the Nam Myoho Renge Kyo actually saved my life. That was something that Miguel had brought me literally directly before I even prayed to God or even really appreciated the goddess. I was very much depending on that mantra to get me through the night. So it's really good to have everybody here. Brother Anthony, I'm really grateful that you get to meet Miguel. Miguel gets to meet you because there's so much knowledge just in any one of you, but all three of us together, maybe we can really show what we can come up with together and help people outside in the audience also learn and have their own knowledge. So
we got 3 lifetimes of knowledge sitting here talking to each other.
Right. It's so good. It's so good. Well, let me just start in. The saying 31, Jesus said, "No prophet is welcome on his home turf. Doctors don't cure those who know them." 32, Jesus said, "A city built on a high hill and fortified cannot fall, nor can it be hidden." Saying 33, Jesus said, "What you will hear in your ear, in the other ear proclaim from your rooftops. After all, no one lights the lamp and puts it under a basket. No one does put it in a hidden place. Rather than one puts it in a lampstand so that all who come and go will see its light." And then the 34, I'll just say, Jesus said, "If a blind person leads a blind person, both of them will fall into a hole." Brother Anthony, did you want to comment to that? Or Elder Miguel, Brother Miguel, if you want to comment on it.
Anthony, go ahead.
I was going to say the same thing to you. Because I'm trying to figure out what I want to say.
Well, I'll just say a couple of these are things that are in the canonical Gospels too.
Yeah.
It's kind of famously there's a part where Jesus is curing and he's in Nazareth and he couldn't get anyone to believe in him, so he really didn't have the same power, even though he's Jesus and godlike power. It really did depend on the faith of the people around to let it be happening. And because he's like, no prophet is accepted in his own town or his own time, and that's obviously. And then
at that time, they probably, it was because they probably thought you were crazy, and they still do up to this day. Honestly, people don't accept me here.
I think it's interesting that yeah, go ahead and say that. Yeah, sometimes people don't accept us in our own time because they think, oh, that's somebody's son or somebody's daughter. It's not. They don't listen to us.
Or like we get into different types of culture. For instance, like I'm in a straight Christian culture out here, and I'm a spiritualist, and they look at me like I'm insane.
Right.
Like I'm some type of demonic demon or something. I just laugh at.
It's really weird how much people conform to a kind of joyless kind of idea of what Christianity or any religion is, and they just get mad when people have excitement. They get mad when people have wisdom. They get mad when people have fun. And they think they think it's something noble just to suffer and not actually grow.
Yeah, honestly, I completely see it like that.
I think a lot of go ahead.
I feel like life is like a tree. You sit there, you plant it, you water it like a lotus plant. He probably understands a lot. Lotus plant, you take a long time and take a lot of effort for it to grow, but when it grows, it's beautiful.
Definitely. Did you want to say something about that?
And the stem or the stem and the plant is just as important as the rose petal or the lotus petal itself.
In Egyptian plant mythology has a certain similar thing going on with the lotus thought too. That was something that was even the temple. The pillars were supposed to be representing the reeds and stuff like that.
I look at, for instance, a rotten tree can't produce good fruit.
Right.
We are that tree. So a rotten person can't produce its own fruit and its own blessing because rotten.
Well, let me go on. Say a few more sayings and get us going on. Saying 35. Jesus said, "One can't enter a strong person's house and take it by force without tying his hands. Then one can loot his house." 36. Jesus said, "Do not fret from morning to evening and from evening to morning about your food, what you're going to eat, about your clothing, what you are going to wear. You're much better than the lilies, which neither card nor spin. As for you, when you have no garment, what will you put on? Who might add to your stature? That very one will give you your garment." And 37, his disciples said, when will you appear to us, and when will we see you?" Jesus said, "When you strip without being ashamed, and take your clothes and put them under your feet like little children and trample them, then you will see the Son of the Living One, and you will not be afraid." I can keep going too.
I'm actually curious about your thoughts about that first verse in the section that you just read, Sid. The one about entering a strong man's or strong person's home. First, what do you make of that?
Well, I would cross-reference it, which I did on the Discord, our Holy Rollers Dice Club Discord. But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night is 2 Peter 3:10, and people know that is actually kind of so. Jesus said a bunch of things, and all these people wrote down parts of it. But if you look at all of them together, including the non-canonical, including like the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, Gospel of Mary, Mother of God, you basically have some of those same sayings from different perspectives to give you a deeper meaning.
Go ahead. I like looking at it as a perspective of like your inner light. Like your inner light, once you start finding the truth, your inner light just starts to glow to get bigger and bigger, and it protects you. And it puts armor on you from all the people that are just want to be like you. Because ultimately, people hate you because they just want to be like you.
Totally. I think that obviously there was a lot of like psychic warfare nowadays and in those days. And they might have been considered witchcraft, they might have been considered religion, or they might have been considered just powerful people. But people are, pushing each other around and stuff. That happens even like where you described, Anthony, where you work. You have a bunch of really mean people who don't, racist people, terrible, homophobic people, who basically try to attack you, but they can't because they can't get into the house that you are. The same with things I go through. Maybe Miguel, you go through things too. Like if you feel, it's kind of like Jesus is saying to all of us, unless they can go into your place and tie your hands, they're not going to get you. And as long as you have your firmness of the temple, stuff we talked about, Anthony, you brought up a lot in the last couple episodes, the idea that the temple is the body and is the soul, and it is us to like take care of it and maintain its strength.
Ultimately, what I try to speak from is like we all come from the same being. The same being just kind of took himself apart and trying to have an experience with everybody. You know what I mean?
We are all that God going through. We are all that demiurge, or how you want to say it. You go ahead.
Well, that would be like a Sophianic type of look. Like a Sophia. Sophia's in everybody, even a demiurge.
Right. So it is kind of like we are Sophia going through the world, and the stuff we go through is challenges we're putting ourselves through to like get through, to get a stronger wisdom, to get more close to God and everything.
Yeah, to understand. That's why the principle is as above, so below.
Right.
Meaning bring it all together.
Kind of like
left ain't no different than right. Right ain't no different than left. Up ain't no different than down.
Right.
It's all the same.
I'm gonna keep saying a few more sayings. 38. Jesus said, "Often you have desired to hear these sayings that I am speaking to you, and you have no one else from whom to hear them. There will be days when you will seek me and you will not find me." 39. Jesus said, "The Pharisees and the scholars have taken the keys of the knowledge and have hidden them. They have not entered, nor they have allowed those who want to enter to do so. As for you, be as sly as snakes and as simple as doves."
That's an interesting one right there.
Just go ahead and say if you want to say, talk about it.
Can we quote that again?
Sure. 39. Jesus said, "The Pharisees and the scholars have taken the keys of knowledge and have hidden them. They have not entered, nor have they allowed those who want to enter to do so. As for you, be as sly as snakes and as simple as doves."
It speaks of the Pharisees and Sadducees, which are representatives of the churches.
Right.
And what did Jesus do? He scolded them
Yes.
because they're teaching physical teachings instead of spiritual. Because everything he speaks in riddles is all spiritual. He's just sleeping. Well, yeah, the spirit's left the body. He's going to call it back.
Just to,
When he raised Lazarus.
just to do the cross reference, the "be as wise as serpents, as harmless as doves" is a Bible verse from Matthew 10:16, and different translations will have different emphasis on that.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to say.
Read it.
No, I just did. Yeah, I mean that's just a reference to the same 39th saying. It's the same concept. The idea of being sly is I actually had a conversation with somebody on one of the people who were like commenting on one of our videos a few weeks ago, and they got very angry at this concept, and I had to like defend that it exists. They were very like, "How can we be sly as snakes?" I was like, "Well, because Jesus told you to." Yeah, I mean, like these are sometimes very, very proper Nicene Christians who will take issue with things I say or things that we've all said.
Well,
and they get mad that even think there's subtlety, that there's deeper meaning than they're used to.
Well, let's look. I'm going to look at this from a world perspective. Because the entire world were a lot of ancient civilization. And that's what you saw was this serpent-type cult. To be honest with you, I don't know if it was a cult. You study it worldwide. You see it in the East a lot. You see it in the North and South America. The temples that have serpents all over them. Be as wise as a serpent.
Right.
Moses had a serpent on his staff.
Right. Well, it's interesting. It's interesting that you bring that up. There's a section in during the Torah where they're going through some trouble, and Aaron gets all their gold together and makes a golden calf, and Allah gets very angry at that and kills people, and it's a really messed up scene. But even at that time, they were attacked by snakes, and even though Allah had said, "Don't make any graven images of me," He instructs Moses to go make graven images, like how you say on his staff is a snake. It's kind of like saying the wisdom that
the serpent holds is what is the teaching that we learn.
And it really has historically threatened the rest of the message. So like you have like the serpent getting Eve to get out of paradise, and everybody says that's original sin. The reality of it is that God himself in his plans was not enough without the human people, especially the women of the human people, showing how the plans have to actually be implemented in a real world thing, and not just always for ideals. Because even God was stuck. Yeah.
I never understood their concept of an angel. Yeah. Because if you read, it says an angel really don't have a will. The will is to do God's will.
Right.
So how do we not know from the beginning that was God's will?
Well, I think that's the thing.
To rise up.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. It's like maybe God was like looking to see, oh, I would love it if you did this, but evidently you're going to do something else. That's what everybody goes through. Everybody goes through a time where they get away from their young ideas and get to a more mature idea. And during that time, things a certain kind of death of the childhood, but a certain kind of new life in the adult. And that's really what the whole of the Bible's about. Why again in Revelation 12, the serpent is personified again. It's almost like the negative of God, demanding a plan and killing people when they disobeyed. Is the serpent that is also dealt with, seven-headed serpent, is also the seven lights in like Revelation 4 or 5 and Isaiah 11:2 also. The idea that God can be both good and bad. We can be both good and bad. It's kind of like we can't just look at a bunch of rules. We have to be mature enough to actually live our lives and to actually like see how it is every day.
I look at it as the serpent was there to learn. Like throughout time, that's all we've been doing is we've been learning to evolve, learning to become a higher conscious, higher being. And throughout a lot of this, that's the serpent comes and brings wisdom. Always.
And it's the wisdom. It's the wisdom of the Mother Earth. It's the wisdom of the actual living in the world, which God didn't have when He first came. All the other gods were as stuck as He was, being all kind of like demanding people do this, demanding people do that. Where our God had the vulnerability to actually say, or maybe I don't know everything. Maybe I got to learn from you guys. Maybe I got to listen. Like how Leviticus 12 is making women feel bad about their blood and the way they are with birth. But then Revelation 12 kind of is God saying, no, you are actually the center of everything. You actually aren't to be rejected, but you're to be put in the middle of everything. And we, including God, is to learn from you. And that's a deep thought.
It really is. And the thing with wisdom is at times is it could be mind-boggling because you may answer one question and you got 5 more questions you want to answer.
It is that way. Let me read the last of we were doing 10 each time. We could do more this time, but whatever you want to do, but I'll just make sure we get our 10 in. Saying 40. Jesus said, a grapevine has been planted apart from the Father. Since it is not strong, it will be pulled up by its root and will perish. I'm going to do 41 and 42 too. 41, Jesus said, whoever has something in hand will be given more, and whoever has nothing will be deprived of even the little they have. And then 42 says, Jesus said, be passers-by, which is interesting.
The other one about some will be handed more and some will be handed. I don't look at that as like riches.
No.
I look at that as some people are going to finish. They're going to oppose their own life while others are going to embrace. So when those who embrace the light in them will be given more. Those who don't want it will be, because you never get to take it from, you just get layers of darkness more around where you can't see it no longer.
I'm really excited to maybe do a few more of them, maybe do more than 10 because we had the opportunity, the 3 of us talking, and see where it goes. I'm going to do 43. His disciples said to him, who are you to say these things to us? You don't understand who I am from what I say to you? Rather, you have become like the Judeans, for they love the tree but hate its fruit, or they love the fruit but hate the tree. I just take that to be like the traditional religion of the time was too interested in this or that way of thinking instead of like blending them.
Yeah, like the eagle and the serpent.
Right.
The eagle is the symbol of the father, and the serpent is the symbol of the mother.
Saying 44, Jesus said,
go ahead.
Jesus said, whoever blasphemes against the Father will be forgiven, and whoever blasphemes against the Son will be forgiven, but whoever blasphemes against the Holy Spirit will not be forgiven, either on earth or in heaven. My thought of that is, if you go against the Spirit, you go against this kind of stuff we're doing right now, where we're trying to honestly and childlike explore. If you get in the way of that, that's the most evil thing to do. You don't want to stop people from saying their message that God wants to give them and share in the world. None of us should shut down anyone else, including the Nicene Christians. I would not shut down them for saying what they say. We need to be more open to openness, really, just like to be more able to like share and have different perspectives on what we have. Does anyone want to
lie about that?
Anybody, you want to say something more about that? Or I'll go on too. I'm going to go, we'll do to 50, I think. 40,
that's why we're just kind of.
We're just going through it.
Discussing about, yeah.
45, saying 45. Jesus said, grapes are not harvested from thorn trees, nor are figs gathered from thistles, for they yield no fruit. Good persons produce good from what they've stored up. Bad persons produce evil from the wickedness they've stored up in their hearts, and say evil things. For from the overflow of the heart they produce evil. That's something you were saying earlier, just about 10 minutes ago, Brother Anthony. You were literally talking about the same thing. Like if you have, whatever you do is what you do. Like the fruit's got to be judged by the fruit that they have, the trees rather.
Yeah, which is the heart, which is the life.
Does anybody want to say more about that, or I'll just go ahead to like 50, and then we could like talk about it. 46. Jesus said, from Adam to John the Baptist, among those born of women, no one is much greater than John the Baptist, that his eyes should not be averted. But I have said that whoever among you becomes a child will recognize the Father's kingdom and will become greater than John. So as great as John was, and he is great, if you achieve the childlike thing that we've been talking about, Anthony, for a couple weeks on the show, and we've all talked about, if you can achieve that, you'll be greater than John the Baptist. Let's see.
It feels like to me with that, when I think about that, it means to a certain degree adopting like the curiosity of a child, right? And kind of just chewing the things that you've learned. It's almost like an unlearning, right?
Yeah.
Because, like you learn, you pick certain things up when you're an adult, and you also like learn, I think, a lot of thoughts that are like self-defeating. You learn a lot of like, what's self-limiting thoughts, right?
Yes.
You pick those things up as an adult. You can't do this, or this is not the way you do things. When you're a child, you don't know any of that shit.
Right.
So it is definitely, I feel like that resonates with me just as a human being. You kind of have to go back to being a child and have that curiosity and unlearn some things.
I just cross-reference from
he hit that right on. I'm sorry, Sid. He hit that right on the dot, because actually, a child's consciousness is constantly being able to create, because they have no, what he just said, limitation. You have nothing blocking you, saying, hey, well, like, that girl's out of your league. Well, if my consciousness was open, that girl is actually might not even be in my league. You know what I mean?
Right. If you have that kind of young wonder about the world, and like as long as that isn't destroyed, going through life, you end up being what they're talking about, being like, open to the world.
You manifest that in your outer world.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And you also have the strength, as you said, Anthony, in another episode, you said that like, as you have the ability to like write the world as well as be written by it, or change the world as a godlike way, that same root is the childlikeness, because you don't know, you have no limit, as Miguel said. Like, you don't have someone saying, oh, you can't do that. If you have that kind of creativity, that raw creativity that's kind and wondrous and excited about the world, then that can't be destroyed. I wanna just reference real quickly Matthew 18:3, I think it's in King James Version, and he said, "Verily I say unto you, except that ye be converted and become as little children, you shall not enter the kingdom of heaven." So that's obviously the canonical gospel agreeing with what we're talking about, which is cool. Let's see.
Yep.
We have five more. I'm sorry, not five more. Four more, and then we'll have gotten to 50. So I'll just say 47. Jesus said, "A person cannot mount two horses or bend two bows, and a slave cannot serve two masters. Otherwise, that slave will honor the one and offend the other. Nobody drinks aged wine and immediately wants to drink young wine. Young wine is not poured into old wineskins, or they might break. And aged wine is poured into a new wineskin, or it might not spoil. That's not poured into a new wineskin, or it might spoil. An old patch is not sewn onto a new garment, since it would create a tear." 48. Jesus said, "If two make peace with each other in a single house, they will say to the mountain, 'Move from here,' and it will move." 49. Jesus said, "Congratulations to those who are alone and chosen, for you will find the kingdom, for you will have come from it, and you will return there again." And the last one we'll do, 50. Jesus said, "If they say to you, 'Where have you come from?' say to them, 'We have come from the light, and from the place where the light came into being by itself, established itself, and appeared in their image.' If they say to you, 'Is it you?' say, 'We are its children, and we are the chosen of the living Father.' If they ask you, what is the evidence of your Father, and you say to them, 'It is motion and rest.'" What'd you say?
I love those.
Yeah, they're great. They're great. Talk to them if you want. Speak to them if you want to. And then obviously Miguel, if he wants to say. And
Right now, I'm kind of mind blowing. So just thinking about it, I know the light, because, like I said, the light inside you.
right,
We're the ones who activate it. We're the ones who maintain it and make it bigger.
well, it's like if we're children of the light, that's kind of what he told people to tell. Then it remains the stuff we had just said, the idea of the childlikeness, that we are the young light. We are we are forever. Even if we live to be 100 years old, we'll be a baby compared to how big the light is and how old the universe is. But we are always its children. We are always in a young, wondrous way. We can be very expertise in what we know, but we have to be knowledgeable and humble as we do that, because as we participate in the spirit, we have the ability to just always have the young mind, always have the youthful thing, which is why Jesus' stuff is over 2,000 years old and you still find it fun to read. Buddha's stuff is 2,500 years, 2,600 years old, and his stuff is always fun to read, and that kind of thing, and even older stuff.
And they all have a recurring pattern.
Yeah,
to know yourself.
Definitely. I wanted to ask one question, Anthony, and I had to ask you, Miguel, to repeat what you had said before we came on. The idea that there's 10 worlds, and then in Buddhism, Anthony, according to Miguel, there are 10 concepts or 10 worlds in Buddhism. And isn't there 10 worlds in the Kabbalah too?
There's 10 spheres in the Kabbalah.
I'm trying to combine the Kabbalah with Buddhism just on that concept. If either of you would talk to that.
They are, from what I know, I haven't gotten all the way into that part of some of the stuff I'm researching, but from what they say, it's pretty much very similar in a lot of underlying.
Miguel, would you be able to speak to any of the 10? Just to describe this.
So there's in Buddhism, and I want to say that obviously there's variation in Buddhism. So this is speaking from what I practice, which is Nichiren Buddhism, which is a form of Mahayana Buddhism. It is the 10 worlds describe states of being that people can go through. The highest world is the world of the Buddha. The lowest world is the world of hell. But these are worlds these are states of being, states of mind that people can go through, right? So they're not at least in the form of Buddhism I practice, not literal worlds, right? But these are states of mind. But you need to not only go through them, but you can access other states of being from within each world, right? Let me see if I can remember. Unfortunately, I'm not the best Buddhist, and I don't have them all like completely memorized. But
here they are. If you want to look through.
What do we got? 10 worlds. Let's see. Oh yeah.
And in the Kabbalah, it's almost the same thing. You enter, like when you go into your meditation, you can enter these states, and each state is like an angel that you meet, and you kind of learn from. And then when you pass those spheres where you start going upwards, you're allowed to go into any of them once you unlock them.
And
like there's just different spiritual worlds where we go and we like face. Like for instance, they talk about where you go to the top, the crown, where a lot of people, when they go to the crown, they realize that there's an upper and a lower God. And some people mind crack because if you believe in like the Jewish way is only one God.
Right.
You know, so they freak out.
Right. Oh, sorry, let me do this.
So, in Buddhism, like the worlds, like similar to what you're talking about, hell, right? So there's a state of hell. That's going to be a state of torment, of course, right? And unhappiness. Hunger is also, it's one of the lower states. And this is, just someone who is constantly craving, right? Someone who's not satisfied. There's animals. There's the world of animals as well. There is, let me see, the fourth world. Yeah. So animals is just like a state of being governed by instinct, right? Lacking in morality or reason. There's the world of the anger, right? Some people call it anger. Some people call it malice. I read this once. A really interesting Buddhist, it was a Zen Buddhist scholar actually, who talks about that world, the world of anger, as the world of malice. But the state of, anger, envy, a constant struggle for power, there's a state of human beings, which is, like relative freedom, but also there's suffering in that as well. There's the world, and then you get to the higher worlds. So they're like the four higher worlds. This is the world of the voice hearers. So these are people who voice hearer are people who have heard the Buddhist teachings and they strive for enlightenment. But they're still attached to self. There's the cause awakened ones. That world, it's world of knowledge, right? So this is like a world of knowing and of obtaining knowledge, right? But you're still focused on personal liberation. And then there's the world of Bodhisattva. So the world of Bodhisattva is really a world of compassion. If you understand like what the Bodhisattva is in Mahayana Buddhism, it is a path of eventually trying to be a Buddha, right? So you go through the Bodhisattva path, and what that means is you postpone your own entry into nirvana.
So you can help other
people. You help other souls enter into nirvana, right? You help other souls enter into enlightenment, and then the last world is the world of the Buddha, and that is the highest state of enlightenment. But in Mahayana Buddhism, I think generally, and Nichiren Buddhism in particular, you go through these states. You go through all of them. Like, I'm not exempt from going through the world of hell. Sometimes I'm in the world of hell, right? So these are things that you go through, but you can access all of those worlds, any of those worlds from within hell. So if you're in hell, if you're in a state of suffering, there's the possibility of entering bodhisattva or entering like a Buddhist state of mind, right? The world of anger, there can be a positive in the world of anger, right? If you are angry, because of injustice, right? You can take that anger, right, and you can turn it into something positive, right? See, again, so it's just like what I don't think you guys were talking about it in this episode, but one of the other episodes, there was mention of, like suffering and learning from that suffering.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
That's, there's commonality with Buddhism there. You learn from your suffering, right? Like suffering, there's a saying in the words of Nichiren Daishonin. It's something to the effect of the desires, the pleasures of this world bring enlightenment. Why would the pleasures of the world bring enlightenment? Because those cause suffering.
And the suffering allows you to then make the jump and become enlightened.
Yes.
So if it wasn't for the suffering or the pleasure or the addiction, we wouldn't be able to get anywhere good.
Yeah.
So all the bad things are good. Yeah.
That way you know where the path leads you.
Right.
Yeah.
So there is no bad. There's no good. It's just like it's all adventure. It's all kind of experience. And you definitely talked about this, Brother Anthony, before. Various ways. Like the idea that we are going. Like even the Bible really is also like a story of a lot of suffering, a lot of terrible shit to get to a good part at the end. And then the Quran takes it even further, and obviously other people have gone different places.
Yeah, you have challenges in life, right? And the point is, what do you do with those challenges, right? You're not going to have a life without challenge. You're not going to have a life without obstacles.
And it's the wrong way. It's almost like the way the Nicene Christians do it, where they just don't want anything negative. It's the same thing as to not understand what you're saying. It's like you're never going to be so enlightened that you zip out. You have to live your life in enlightenment. You have to live your life with the challenges still existing, but be able to meet them and jump over them and stuff.
Yeah.
I wanted to say, no, you go ahead, Anthony. And there's one thing I wanted to say.
No, he's absolutely right. And I like to add another thing to it.
Sure, please.
Through our suffering, that's how we learn how to access those states.
Yeah.
Because when you already been through the same thing over and over again, you start to learn how to maneuver through things by accessing, hey, maybe I should not go that route. Maybe I should go this far.
Right.
And through that stuff, we grow like a seed, like a plant. We suffer until we crack through our shell. When we crack through our shell, we start to grow.
Right. And even wheat will eventually have to die before we can eat it. So the idea that there's always some negative to get to the positive.
And that's what I think about the true knowledge, that it's all knowledge. It really is all just knowledge. It's what we do with that knowledge is to be, you know what I mean? Both light, dark, both bad and good, both negative, positive, male, female.
We gotta get over this idea that we have to avoid all kinds of things in life or be holier than those things or whatever. We need to be a part of all of it. And then the holiness, the goodness, the love comes from us answering that. There's one more thing I want to say too. Elder Miguel, you were still part of the ongoing game, the live action scripture we've been doing for over several years really. But the thing you brought up as Melchizedek's character was that you wanted to turn the negative stuff, the poison of the life, into medicine.
Yeah.
Did you want to talk about that a little bit?
Just, poison into medicine. It's another Buddhist concept. The idea is that you're going to take negative things. It's similar to what we've been talking about. Take those negative things and turn them into positive things, right? So, like whatever that's going to be, for instance, there's another concept called, I believe it's the three poisons, right? One of those poisons, for instance, is like anger, right? You can take a poison like anger, and anger can really be self-defeating, right?
Right.
You can take that anger and turn that into something else, right? That is, like affirming.
Right.
That's just another concept, you want to, and again, it's very similar to obstacles, but you're taking like this obstacle, you're taking these negative things that are occurring, and you're transforming it into something that is nurturing. You're transforming it into fuel for your life.
That's what Romans 2:12, performed by the word which is transformed.
Say it again, brother.
Romans 2:12. Don't be conformed by the world, but be transformed by the world by the renewal of your mind.
Definitely, I love that line. I love that.
Yeah,
that's a good one. Is there? I think it's about. We've done 42 minutes now. We've done 20 sayings, which is great. We got to saying 50. So why don't we? Is there any last words everybody has?
Peace be with you.
Peace be with you. Peace be with you too, friends.
Peace be with you.
Well, peace be with all of us, and thank you, Brother Anthony, as always, and thank you, Brother Miguel, for coming and joining us for this. And I'm looking forward to putting it up and have people see it. So,
Anthony, it was great to share this podcast with you.
Actually, it was great sharing it with you too. You have to express a lot of things that sometimes I want to express, but I just can't find the words for them.
Oh well,
no, you're great.
No, you're great. And Brother Anthony, really, this is his project, and I'm part of it. And I'm so glad to have other people jump on it. We'll have other people be guest stars on this too, with everyone's consent. And keep our knowledge going and keep showing people new stuff.
Stan, you're just as important as I am.
He's so sweet. Appreciate you. Thank you, friend. Thank you. Well, God bless both of y'all. God bless everybody listening. And thank you so much for everything that's come out of this. This church is an active church. We're actively, looking at the mysteries of life. We're not just going through some doctrine and going to sleep. We're staying awake, and we're trying to wake other people up too.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Well, bless you. We'll see each other next week.